My screen. Hey everybody, welcome and thank you for joining me today for this month's Habitat Now. We're going to visit Morag Reekie in the UK as she is May's artist in our NGG presentation. It's an honor to have her. Her presentation's up on Artsy, and I'm going to quickly just start sharing my screen and give you a couple glances to what's going on in our world here at Habitat. So let me share this, which I am already. Get it on the screen. Okay, perfect. So here's our little tag logo thing. Forge your legacy at Habitat. So our post-auction works are available. I just sent out an email if you're interested in anything that passed at the auction. Maybe you didn't have a chance to bid. Maybe you've been eyeballing something. Email just went out. I can always send it to you. It's hosted on habitatglass.com. You can see the available works. There's some true treasures in here, including that amazing Bubako and that incredible Stankard. I don't quite know how auctions work. Things I think will sell, do. Things I think won't sell, don't, or opposite around. It's really wild how the auctions turn out, but it was successful and we're happy nonetheless. Plan your visit to the International. If you haven't seen it yet, come and visit us here in Royal Oak, Michigan, about 30 minutes outside of Detroit from the airport. The Path of Life 12 Jar show we're bringing into the gallery. So it's an incredible space to see, and it's probably the best show I've ever set up. Big credit to Rob and Dave and Corey for doing it and making it look so amazing in there. Just some glimpses from the big grand opening on Saturday. We had a lot of people come through, but we had people outside in the tent too, so there was lots of space. This is just a cluster as I was running upstairs, but it was an incredible experience. We had probably one of the best turnouts of our event with the public. Corey got on TV, I got on TV. There's a big spread of me on the Free Press, so we're getting the word out in the local area. And we have our local clients too. And Peter and Janet came all the way from the Netherlands, and this is the Beckers, who are big collectors of ours locally. It's great to see everybody once again. Here's a big group of powerful women we're honored to have at our show. We have Jen Blazina and Stephanie Trenchard and Kim Thomas, who's a new artist. And this is Brandy. She's a curator at the Connecticut Museum. I can't remember the full name of it, but it was great having these people. And we had three judges judge the show. Charles Shepard, who's here today from Fort Wayne Museum of Art, Fort Wayne, Indiana. We had a person from the Chaz from the DIA here trying to get our relationship going with the Detroit Institute of Arts, and Jane Buckman at the Imagine Museum. It was a lot of fun. Cheers to everybody who showed up. It was great. And like I said, thank you for being part of our Habitat family, and do come and plan a visit this month in May and see the whole exhibit. It's also open for the next couple of months, but just plan your trip here. It's great seeing everybody. Corey and Tim Tate did a tour through the show via Habitat, or not via the ACG meetup. So you can view that on the ACG website. Just look for this particular banner on the Habitat's webpage. You can see their tour. I had to cut it down a little bit just to get the content going, but it's worth checking out. And then our online presentation is ready to see at habitat.com. Just click the learn more and view online to look at the whole exhibition. We're adding works every day. More work is showing up, right, David? More work is showing up to put on display. Your work is found. It will be on display in no time. Rob just gave me a call before the show, so I wanted to give you the update. So on with Not Grandma's Glass. So this is our second year. We're in the month of May, and it is an art exhibition that's virtual online that was born out of the pandemic as we're all stuck at home, and focused on artworks that are not in Grandma's art collection yet. We heard so often that the younger people from the next generation didn't really care about Grandma's glass. Oh, that's just Grandma's glass. And this title is a snakes on a plane approach to getting people to pay attention to what's going on in the world and the future of the medium. So the website's online at notgrandmasglass.com. You can see last year's winners there. But on with the show. Morag, I'm honored to have you today and to talk about your exhibition for the show called Towards the Light, where you incorporated a few works for sale. And we'll talk about your life, your career, and your work. So you can see her presentation on artsy.net. You can just search her name. You can follow us on Artsy. It's basically an online platform for selling artwork. For us, it's like a platform for putting artwork out there, so clients can easily see it. So welcome to our Habitat family, Morag, and I will stop sharing my screen so you can start sharing yours. Stop. That's not it. There we go. Hold on one second. I stopped something.
Sorry,
You're on. I can still see you, but I clicked something on Facebook. Here we go. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're good. I can see your screen. You are all good. Perfect. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to Aaron for inviting me to be part of Not Grandma's Glass. Very exciting. Right. So I was born in Stourbridge, in Birmingham. and it's the heart of the glass making during the Industrial Revolution. There was quite a few of these cones around, but unfortunately there's only one left, which is the Red House Cone Museum. Stourbridge is the centre of the glass industry. I wasn't there for very long. Mum and Dad moved. We moved to Lincoln and then Stoke-on-Trent, and then we finally moved to Norwich, which is where I live now. So my mum is Pam Reekie and my father is David Reekie, who you obviously probably know. And I have an older sister called Bella and a younger brother called Duncan. Growing up was fun. We were always on adventures. We were camping, playing on the beach and just having lots of fun. Mum and Dad always encouraged us to be creative. So much so I used to help Dad out in his studio. If it wasn't bringing him a plaster because he'd cut his finger, it would be helping him build things. And he used to give me bits of modelling wax, and this is a piece that I made when I was probably around 11 or 12. So it would have been in the 80s. This is a little kangaroo that I made.
You still have it? Do you still keep it company?
Yeah.
That's great.
And these are the pieces that Dad was making in the 80s. The one on the left is called The Confrontation, and the one on the right is called It's Rude to Stare.
Mm-hmm.
So just before I went off to university, I met Andrew, my partner today. He works on surveying ships. So he's away. When we first met, he was away for sort of 8 to 10 weeks. Now it's sort of 4 to 6. And he's always been very supportive of my work. So I went to Sheffield Hallam University and did a BA Honours in sculpture. I was there for 3 years. And I sort of dabbled around with different mediums. And my end of year show, I did work with these chairs. So I've made these very sort of spindly high chairs. The high chairs was to sort of subtly hint on my childhood. So I think probably when I was in mainstream school, I was feeling very anxious and feeling, because I wasn't very academic, I sort of was made to feel like I would never achieve anything, and I wasn't very bright. So I always suffered sort of with anxiety, really. And so the chairs on the right, I'm like the small chair and the rest are like chairs dominating me. And I wanted to reverse that role. And so the piece on the left is a piece that I made where I made this huge sort of draping fabric and I wanted it to be bright red because I wanted it to draw the viewer inside. And then once you were inside, you were dominated by this chair. But even though the chair was representing me, so I'd like hacked at the legs and made it quite unstable and wobbly, but I wanted it to dominate the viewer. So that's what that piece of work was about for my end of year show. I then, wrong way. I did my dissertation on Mon Art. And I think this is where my love of glass sort of came from. I mean, we were brought up around glass. Mum and Dad are very big collectors of all sorts of glass, but Mon Art was one of them. So I did my dissertation on Mon Art. So it was a Spanish glass blower taught in France and who produced in Perthshire in Scotland. And his name was Salvador Issart. And I just think his work is beautiful. The colours, the shapes, quite modern for the time. These were made between the 20s and the 60s. Yeah, so that's where my love of glass started from. After university, I fell pregnant with my first son, Stanley, who's the one on the left top corner. He's 18 and he's working in a brewery at the moment. Then Millie came along a year and a half later, and she's studying fashion business and communications at a local college. And then 5 years later, Jimmy came along. Jimmy's been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and I'll talk a bit about him and his influence in my work a little bit later. My children are probably my biggest influence really in my work. They're very headstrong, funny, quirky children, and they keep me on my toes. So my other influence is an artist called Julie Arkle, who's on the left. She works with paper mache. And then you've got Lucy Casson, who makes these very quirky little tin creatures. Again, a bit like me, they both use found objects, and Julie Arkle sort of uses a few, I suppose, more personal effects. So with her paper mache, she'll use poetry and found objects, as in the clothing as well, that she uses to make her little people. And I just love the humour and the observation in Lucy's work. I just find them so quirky and funny.
I can imagine finding these things around a room.
Yeah, I know, they're great, aren't they?
They are
like very
fun.
cheeky and getting up to no good, especially those three. You don't know what, especially one looking back.
Right, where are you going with that ball? What are you doing with that?
Yeah. So how it all started. So I started drawing and painting these little illustrations for my daughter's bedroom. And I just thought they were so quirky and fun. I thought that would be a great idea to make in glass. And at this time, our youngest son was probably about 5 or 6. He just started school, and I had time to start to do stuff for myself. And so I started helping Dad in his studio, and then said to him, you know, could I make these out of glass? And he said, well, you could, but you have to simplify them. You have to lose the leg and the sleeves and the arms. So I started to do some sketches. And so the idea came about, and these were the first mice that I made. So the piece on the left is called Three's Plenty. So the 3 blocks represent my 3 children. And the one on the right is called Life's Not Just Black and White, because, you know, life is always throwing obstacles in your way. And these pieces are very naive, and they're quite small pieces. They're probably about 12 centimetres, the little pink one. She's got very thin ears. So yeah, that's the first 2 I made. And then again, from the illustrations I was doing, mice with balloons, these came about. And again, you can see they're very quite rustic, and my modelling is not as brilliant as I think it's better now. I've sort of got a lot better. These are newer pieces. And I think I've just added a bit more character to them and a bit more movement. So yeah, that's just the fun pieces. And then I did a series using dinky toys. Again, using the dinky toys, I think that's Dad always collected dinky toys. These are 1950s ones. So it's a bit of nostalgia, a bit of my childhood memory, thinking back to looking at Dad's collection. And also the boys played with cars. So I think that's the reason I've used them. And it's nice to use something that's been someone else's object, you know, it's like got its own history to tell, and I'm using it in a different purpose and giving it a new lease of life. So this was the old London bus, and then I did Fire, which is sold, so thank you very much. And this piece, which is one of my favourite, a 1950s little police car, mini police car, called Come Along Now. And then I did a series using brass ornaments. I think brass and glass work really well. This piece, again, hinting on my childhood, I'm using an old Ladybird book, which I've cut up for the top of the trolley. And then there's another, this giraffe is a lot bigger than the previous one, and it's whispering into the mouse's ears. This is conversation about conservation. So this is just subtly hinting on that, you know, we have to look after our planet. Again, with this piece as well, called Nurture. So this is a little mouse holding a little brass duckling. And then I did a series with using old bottles. So when I was a child, I used to go bottle digging with Dad, digging up all these bottles, and these pieces I found in an old little wicker suitcase I had as a child, and I've kept them for all these years. And one of them had written on it Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup, which I just thought was a brilliant title for this piece of work. So yeah, just trying to keep it fun, and that's that piece. Then this is me sort of coming away from humour. This is me being a bit more sort of political and a bit more serious. This piece called Three Blind Mice. So this is my take on people being blinded by the lies that the media say and politicians. So they're vulnerable pieces because they're glass and they're blind. They're quite vulnerable, but I want them also to be standing up for themselves, standing strong, hence the polls, and trying to think for themselves, not listen to the lies that we're told. So that's that one. And then I did a series as well using old hand mirrors. And again, it's that vintage, using the vintage pieces. So, you know, who's held this before, who's looked into this mirror. And I like to use that, and then again, giving it a new lease of life, making it into something different. Also at the time, hence the title, We're All Mad Here, life was getting quite hard. Our youngest son was really struggling in mainstream school. He was not wanting to go to school, refusing to go into class, running away from school. So it's quite a hard time, and I was kept getting called into the school. So I was feeling like I was going a little bit mad, hence the sort of title. And also it's a bit of a hint on the book Alice in the Wonderland. Next one. Okay, so this is a picture of my wax mice in the fridge. So I use a modelling wax, and you have to keep putting it back in the fridge when it gets too warm so you can work on it. So the dragons on the right have got shards of glass. This is a technique that I use where I cut up sheet glass into little triangles and then put them into the wax using a little wooden tool. And then I will cast them up using plaster and flint mix. And the picture on the left is the shards of glass trapped in the plaster once the wax is melted out. I then colour my own fripped glass with on-glaze enamels to get the tones and the colours that I want. And so these are the dragons. So the dragons I made in the first lockdown. These are sort of spiky, angry little dragons because, again, it was what the politicians were telling us, lies and about the pandemic, not helping people who were dying, hospitals needed help, and the politicians just seemed to be more interested in making their friends richer. So this is my little take on my anger at the time, I suppose, my frustrations, these little dragons. Also, me and Dad did a joint piece together, again using the same technique. These shards were a little bit bigger. And again, it's our anger, you know, it's protesters. I mean, it was absolutely awful what was happening in America, you know, Black Lives Matter. And again, looking after our planet and having empathy for each other, looking after each other. And so that's what this take was on. And then I did a series using little tin money boxes. So this is a Coleman's mustard tin. Coleman's was made in Norwich, the mustard. So it's quite nice to find in this little tin. And it's a little mouse leaning in, putting an old coin into it. I did a few pieces with these little post office boxes, money boxes. And I just love the way he's just leaning on his little tin, waiting around. So I did a few like this. So yeah, and I know the homes they've gone to, so I'm very pleased they're in good homes.
Are they permanently attached to that stand in the last piece, or are they placed there?
They're pegs. So I drill into the base and put little brass pegs in, and then drill into the mouse and put little brass pegs in, and then they're into the wood. But you can take it off, and you can put money or little notes into the tin, and then the lid comes off. So it's all workable. You can add little things to it.
Fun.
And then tomfoolery. Again, this was my son influenced me, my youngest son, Jimmy. When he was younger, he was full of beans, hence the ADHD, which we didn't know at the time. We just thought he had lots of energy, which he did have. But he was always climbing things, jumping in puddles, laying in puddles. He was just always up to no good and having fun. So hence the tomfoolery. This piece is probably about 2 foot high, and that mouse is probably the biggest mouse I've made so far. And then I did these 2 snow globes. This was for the Pyramid Gallery in York, and the title was Winter. So again, it's a bit of nostalgia. It was using the snow globe when I was a child. Remember picking it up. It was always at my grandma's house and shaking it, and looking in and dreaming about the little chocolate box house inside. So yeah, using sort of the nostalgia to make these pieces. So my friend Bruce Marks blew the domes for me with little flecks of white in them, and then yeah, and then place them over the top of my colourful mice. And then this piece is my newest piece, Relentless. Like I've mentioned before, Jimmy, he was diagnosed with ADHD and autism at the age of 9. And soon after, he was permanently excluded from his mainstream school, which hit us quite hard. It opened our eyes to a whole new world, and the fight that we would have to fight for him to get him in the right school. He really struggled, and then the lockdown hit, which I think probably helped Jim because he needed to heal a bit, but it hindered us when trying to find him a school and the right help. So lots of research. My partner was amazing. He did lots of reading and emailing people whilst I was chatting to other mums with children with special educational needs. So this piece is about our fight with the system and the LA, the local authority, about just trying to get what our son deserved. And so when you felt like you were getting somewhere, you'd have the door slammed in your face and you'd have to start the whole process all over again. It was extremely frustrating. Hence Relentless, you're pushing something up a hill for only to roll down again. You're having to redo it, the whole thing again. So yeah, that's that piece. And then these 2 pieces are new. So I started following a few sort of special educational needs social media sites, and one day this word takiwatanga came up, and it's the Maori word for autism, which means in his or her own time and space, which I thought was beautiful. I thought they've made a word for autism. It's amazing. If only more of us did that. And so I made this piece with the cloche over the top. Again, Bruce Marks was very kind and made this piece for me. So I guess the mouse is representing my son. He's in his own space, and the cloche is my protection of my son. I think when we all have children, we become very protective over our children, and even more so when they've got special needs. So the cloche is me protecting my son. And then the next piece, called Square Peg Round Hole, is sort of self-explanatory, really. I suppose this is probably about me and Jim, really, about not fitting in. We're not all round pegs. So at school, I found it really hard to concentrate and to do well at school, and the same with Jim. But we're very lucky, and we found Jim a really good special educational needs school. He started last September, and he's thriving. He's doing really well, and he's really happy. I think life will always be a struggle, and there'll always be things thrown in our way. But at the moment, he's very happy, and we're really pleased about that. So thank you for everyone for coming and listening to my talk.
Thank you so much, Morag, for showing us. Go ahead and stop sharing your screen.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that this new school is working well, and it's amazing news that after all your struggles, you're finding a place that he can get the help he needs, which is so important. As we know, we all have kids, and we try and do our part as parents. No one teaches us. You kind of just figure it out on your own.
Well, that's it. Yeah,
that's the trick. I was surprised that I haven't seen a piece of yours with a mouse standing on a clock yet. Oh yeah, show us your piece.
No, I forgot to show you the mouse.
All right.
So this is one of the pieces, which is on the website, but I just thought I would show you so you get a sort of an idea of the size of what they're like and the thickness. Yeah, you can
really put substantial. It's very, very fun. I'm going to remove the spotlight.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for joining us today, and thank you everybody for being here. It's an honor to have you, Morag, be part of this exhibition, and thank you for sharing your work and your story with us, which is very important, because the work you make needs that kind of story. It needs to learn about who you are, why you create, And as you continue to do it, it's interesting that you also described that you, when your kids got older, started going to school, you had a chance to get back into creating
get
your
my
own
life
work,
back a
get
little
your
bit.
life back, right? That's true. It's a fact. You know, you get stuck. It's part of life. You go through the motions, and now you get a chance to be a little more yourself and find time for yourself. That's an
Yeah.
important thing psychologically, especially for creative people like yourself. Well,
Yeah, I think that is when you want to be creative, you need to spread your wings.
yeah, especially, you know, it becomes painful if you can't create as an artist.
Yeah.
And I talked
Yeah.
to many artists about that experience of, you know, jotting in a book helps, but it's nothing like sitting down and actually getting something created to share
No.
with the world. Well, if you have any questions, anybody, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. It's an honor to have you all join me today, and I wanted to wish you all a great weekend. And like I said, you're always welcome to come and visit the gallery. We'll continue the NGG presentation next month, so look forward to that. And Morag's presentation is on artsy.net. I sent a couple emails out that will take you right to the presentation, but it's great to expose your work to the world, and we're honored to have you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, have a great weekend, and we'll see you all real soon. Be well. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.